This is Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're in the Inland Empire today. We are joined by the Sheriff of San Bernardino County. His name is John McMahon. He brings with him Detective Reggie Bahia, and there is no doubt that all elements of society are trying to grapple with a rise in homelessness. And I have to admit, gentlemen, I'm a little confused as to why there's a rise in homelessness when the economy, even in the Inland Empire, and especially in the Inland Empire, is getting better. What's happening?
What we're seeing out on the street
Please.
is it's a combination. I think if the federal numbers bear out, they say 1 in every 3 people have a mental health issue.
That are homeless.
Correct,
Right.
correct. So a lot of that can be attributed to people who aren't seeking services or who aren't accessing services properly.
Sheriff, let me ask you, as you know, California has 12% of the total population of America, but 21% of the homeless population. LA County has the largest homeless population in America. They're right next door. Are you seeing that spike that we're seeing in LA County, San Diego County, and throughout California?
Oh yes, we're seeing it as well. And part of it is the climate on the West Coast. You know, it's much easier to be homeless in a climate like Southern California than it is to be in the Midwest, especially in the wintertime.
And I have to think in the high desert, for example, then San Bernardino County has a lot of beautiful high desert. I understand you reside in the high desert. I mean, it's beautiful. You know, I mean, it has, you know, nice days, cool nights. You could live comfortably even without a home.
Absolutely.
So I must ask you, both of you gentlemen, how do you manage to try to attack the homeless crisis in the largest geographic county in the lower 48 states?
Well, for us, it's about collaboration. It's getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody together, working toward the same common goal. And that's getting everybody to work together more responsibly.
And when you say everybody, do you mean everybody within the sheriff's department, or are you talking about partners, both public and private?
It's a great question.
Right.
We're talking about everybody from the public to our faith-based groups to our nonprofit organizations and our government-based organizations.
Now, I have to ask, though, I would not have expected to speak with the sheriff and a detective about homelessness. You know, folks, you know, you hear the cliche, you know, being homeless is not a crime. And you've said that to me.
Right.
So explain that push-pull, if you may, philosophically. We'll get into the nitty-gritty in a moment, Reggie.
Sure. Well, homelessness, and especially panhandling associated with homelessness, is a quality of life issue.
Yes.
And in our county, we work very hard to improve the quality of life. So the traditional model of arresting folks for homelessness and putting them in jail does not work. We had to come up with a more creative way to deal with this population and try to connect them with services so ultimately they find permanent housing. That's where Reggie and his team comes in.
And let's talk about that, sir. You are part of a team set up through the sheriff called the HOPE team. HOPE stands for?
Homeless Outreach and Proactive Enforcement.
Okay, so I like it. I like it. Tell me about the HOPE program. When did it launch? How did you become involved? And what are you doing?
Happy to. The program actually started as a pilot program back in late 2013. Deputy Mike Jones at our central station was tasked by his captain to come up with a way to tackle the quality of life issues like the sheriff spoke of before. As you know, it's down by Loma Linda. There's some very affluent neighborhoods, so they were seeing a spike in panhandling and transients in that population. So what Mike did was he did a lot of research. He reached out to San Antonio, Texas, Daytona Beach, Florida, who had programs already in place. And what we did was we just modeled our program after theirs, and the crux of it was outreach.
What does that mean?
Going out in the streets, the back alleys, the fields, the cars, and making contact. And what it boils down to, talking to people.
But that begs the question, because, for example, I was recently speaking with Robert Lovingood, who is a supervisor in San Bernardino County, represents actually the high desert, and he had just engaged in the point-in-time homeless count, which is now occurring yearly.
Yes.
And it was interesting. I saw pictures of him engaged in that count, and I saw he kind of had a respectful distance from those in which he was engaging. It was not as if he was trying to be disrespectful, but he was trying to create a safe environment. So I ask you, sir, do they even want to engage? I mean, look, you see a police badge, it can be spooky. Or maybe you show up. How do you show up?
This is how we show up. We dress like the non-traditional uniform.
It's a little
softer.
Right, a little softer. So what do they think when you show up?
Well, I'll tell you, the first year we did this, it was a lot of, I'm not homeless or I'm leaving right now.
Right.
Because the traditional role of law enforcement was, hey, you're going to jail, you're getting a ticket, we're confiscating your stuff. And so we had to work really hard to build a bridge of trust, if you will, to say, listen, we're here as an outreach team. If you have warrants, we're not really that concerned. You know, we won't turn a blind eye to violent crime.
Fair enough.
But if you're here and you want help, because this has to be something that they want,
Right.
we're the people to talk to.
And tell me, what happens? If they say they want help, what happens?
Well, as Reggie indicated, working together with the other county departments is huge.
Right.
Department of Behavioral Health is a big partner because a number of those folks have mental illness issues. Try to get them connected with services. But I think what's important, and Jeff, he was just talking about this, that the reputation of law enforcement coming into contact with the homeless was a challenge in the beginning. Now, when Reggie and Jeff and all of them come up to the homeless population, they go, "Oh, you guys are the Hope guys. It's good."
It's great.
That is insane that
People-
you actually are able to get
Yes.
that rep.
Right.
That rap.
People we've never contacted before, oh, I've heard about you, because the homeless network incredibly well. They have a very good intelligence network.
knew?
It's really, and they go, yeah, you housed a friend of mine, or you got a friend of mine, their ID. Can you do anything for me? And that's huge. Just overcoming that initial distrust is huge.
Okay, so like you said, some suffer from mental illness. I assume some suffer from addiction. It had been the case that when folks that were homeless were being input into the system, there was a demand of sobriety. And so some of these folks weren't sober, and so they couldn't access services. As I understand it, there's a new model known as Housing First. Explain how that model is being adopted in San Bernardino County.
The Housing First model is actually very
Effective?
progressive.
Oh, progressive, okay.
Like you said before, there was a sobriety issue. You know, but first they have to be dried out, and to expect somebody to do that on their own without accessing service, it's almost impossible. So we understand, hey, let's work with this person, but let's first put them somewhere where we can get them into a safe environment where maybe they can't access those drugs or that alcohol.
What are you doing in the wake of El Nino? Because we have experienced some real storms, and San Bernardino has some beautiful riverbeds that were dry and aren't anymore.
It's a big attraction to
Right.
the homeless population to camp in those areas underneath bridges and
Right.
in those drainage tunnels. And the Hope team has been out contacting those homeless folks that live in those areas and warning them of the pending storms and trying to provide them with information so that they're safe when the water does start to flow.
And I know, Sheriff, that your colleagues on the Board of Supervisors have made ending veterans' homelessness a #1 priority, and as I understand it, has been very successful, presumably with the help of Hope and otherwise.
Absolutely. That was a huge project that the county took on, and they met their goal and housed every one of the homeless veterans in the county with permanent housing.
The challenge, though, is that the word gets out, and so are you concerned that with success breeds more folks coming that don't have homes?
We've actually gotten this question before. They said, does it become now a beacon? That's,
Right.
oh yeah, we hear there's housing. And what we found out, and we've talked to programs in Los Angeles who have a much larger problem than we do, obviously, and they found that your homegrown homeless are yours. This bears out with what we talked to them in the riverbeds in the cities. They know the services. They know this is where they grew up. They don't wander very far, and so it's very uncommon for somebody to come as far from LA, Orange County, or some other counties because the unknown for them, especially with the mental health issue, is just too much for them to overcome.
Okay, his name is Reggie Pahia. He is a detective with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. His name, of course, is John McMahon. He is the sheriff for San Bernardino County. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are in the Inland Empire today. Stay safe. This is Charter Local Edition.